Oh my goodness, it is absolutely freezing. Or rather, today it's not too bad. I was able to actually go without having to try and defrost my car, but yesterday was absolutely frigid. Anyway, hello and welcome back to The Lion's Den. I'm your host Matt, and I was gonna do some like weird, stupid synonyms thing for the title card just to be quirky, but hey ho, moving on. Yesterday was absolutely insane. I went driving on the motorway by myself, which I haven't done, I don't think ever actually. I did some motorway driving lessons after I passed my test, which was fine. And the last time I ever went motorway driving was probably about 4 years ago when I went to help pick up my sister from university, and we like had to use two cars because she has so much rubbish. But I was in the car with my mum at that point, so that that was like fine because whilst I'm freaking out trying to drive on a motorway, there's another pair of eyes. This was fully on my own, and yeah, really interesting. It was way easier than I thought it would be. I managed to navigate to the motorway using my phone on Google Maps perfectly fine. I got onto the motorway and off the motorway multiple times perfectly fine. I was even changing lanes, and that was all good. And my car was even able to maintain 70 miles an hour perfectly happily. Well, maybe not happily, but it did it. So that meant I could just sit in the second lane from the left because I wasn't going super slow, but I was going the speed limit. So that was good. It's very tiring, I'll be honest, because I had to pull over for lunch due to traffic and then having driven on the motorway for like 30-40 minutes. And certainly when I came back the other way, I did it non-stop because there was no traffic and I just wanted to get home. But at that point, I'd driven like an hour, so I got home and I got out of the car and my head was pounding and I was like, ugh. But I think it was nice. I'd love a new car though, one that's not like wind noisy and really screaming at 70 miles an hour. That would be super nice, but that requires finding a new car, which is not at all easy in the current market. So yeah, speaking of cars, actually I did a test drive a couple weeks back. That's what I was going to talk about last week, and then I went a bit off piste, but hopefully that was okay. I did take a test drive, my first test drive, and my first time driving another car outside of the ones I learned in and the one that I have currently. It was a Vauxhall Corsa. I believe it was like an 18 plate, a 2018 plate, so fairly new, fairly modern as well. I was amazed with all of the stuff on the inside. Like the instrument cluster was really nice. It had even like a little digital display for things like your miles to the gallon and your trip distance and fuel and stuff like that. The center console, which is a huge thing for me personally, was really nice. It had a big touchscreen in it, and it even includes things like Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I'm would be really excited to have something like that. It even had a heating steering wheel and heated seats, which is like, wow. The heated steering wheel especially would be super nice for me in the winter because my hands always get freezing, especially early morning when you're trying to go to the gym. It had aircon and everything, which that sounds like a really silly thing to get excited about, air conditioning. But when you've driven in a car that doesn't have air conditioning, only heating, it's not fun, especially in the summer when it's 32 degrees and you're just melting sitting in traffic and you can't do anything about it. Yeah, the car was really nice. The problem is when I actually came to test drive it, I had this sort of weird visibility issue and I could not figure out what the problem was after the fact. So I think really what I need to do is take a second test drive. But essentially, when we were trying to leave the little area where they've got all the cars parked up, I was turning right. So I'm obviously looking left to make sure that when I'm merging into oncoming traffic, or not merging into oncoming traffic, merging into traffic, that there's nobody coming and I'm going to have a collision. And for the life of me, I could not see. I could not see to my left where I was trying to look. And I don't know if that's because I wasn't looking in the right position, or if I'd set up the seat incorrectly. Because after the fact, the salesperson mentioned like, oh, maybe the seat was too high. It didn't feel too high, but maybe it was. I'm not entirely sure, but I felt like I just could not see enough of my surroundings whilst I was driving, so that kind of threw me through a loop. I think the best thing to do is to get in another one and try it out and see what it's like. Because maybe I could get used to it, maybe I could fix the seating position. Not entirely sure, but that's probably the closest I've been to finding a car I like and then actually looking into buying one. So the one I actually test drove, I'm not buying that one because it was a lot more money, but I'd found basically the exact same model, but a lot further out, at a different dealership. So if I wanted that car, yeah, we're gonna have to drive a little ways, but we have to make sure that it's actually the car I want, because it's a long way to drive, only to then go, yeah, no thanks. So, but there you go. That's my hunt for cars continuing. It's honestly, the UK car market is awful. Cars are worth stupid amounts of money when they shouldn't be, and the selection of second-hand cars is very slim, which is disappointing because it means I'm having a very hard time trying to find a car. And the other awkward thing is, you might say, well, why don't you consider buying a new car? The cheapest new cars are about 10 grand. I do not have anywhere near that kind of money to spend on a car, and even finance options are probably not a good idea for me. So, yeah. But there you go. That's my fun with finding a new car and also driving my current car up and down the motorway. So, let's move on to something entirely different. So, do you ever remember reading in class? It's a really interesting way to start this section. For sort of English literature specifically, we would often do book readings or poetry readings, stuff like that. And we'd take it in turns who was reading. The teacher would just be like, hey, yo, you read. Which was always absolutely terrifying for me because whilst I can read perfectly fine in my head, trying to read out loud is a completely different beast. It's completely different because your brain has to read the words but then also speak them. And unlike just talking, your brain has to kind of keep ahead of what sentence you're reading whilst it's reading the word that you're currently on. I'm saying reading a lot of times. But I'm sure you understand if you're not used to doing it and not practiced in reading aloud whilst also simultaneously reading a text. It's really awkward, and some people just it's not good. It's not a fun time listening to them read aloud. I was kind of in the middle, like I could read okay, but it was a little bit shaky to some degree. So hey ho, you take what you get. What this reminded me of though is we read a book called The Woman in Black. Now, from my teenage brain, I thought it was a really good book. The film, absolutely awful. Although my my opinion could be very strongly coloured by my teacher. But the book was really nice, really enjoyable. And, you know, horror is a difficult thing to bring across in reading because obviously it's entirely dependent on how you read the book and how fast you read it. So the pacing is entirely down to you. But that probably just suggests that it was even better because they managed to still have that interesting element of horror. The thing that we like to do in class is that when they said anything about like a heartbeat or when a scene was coming up that was quite tense, what we would do is we'd either like tap the desks or tap the floor to a heartbeat rhythm and slowly speed it up just to make it kind of tense. That was always fun. And the teacher never told us off or anything for it because I think she liked that idea, that concept that we were getting into it and doing so. A slight side rant about English. It's so frustrating because I understand that it's part of the national curriculum, so until A levels you have to take English in the UK. The English literature just squashes the life out of anything you read. Trust me when I say that I have absolutely no affinity for what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. It's a John Steinbeck. Damn, I can't think of what it's called. It's about the two ranch hands in like 1920s, 1930s America. Oh, this is really frustrating. What's it called? Damn. This is where I need a second person who would just be like, you mean this? But yeah, I have absolutely no affinity for that book at all now. Simply because we just read it so much and we had to pick apart every single part of it, overanalyze the smallest of details because that's what the exam wanted. And then you have to study it constantly, memorize quotes and parts of the book here, there, and everywhere, and then eventually end up writing a weird short form essay in a timed environment. No, it's not good. It's not good at all. I think it's the same reason why people don't like Shakespeare's poetry or Shakespeare's plays, because you do the exact same thing, because he's supposed to be like this big, I don't know, marvel of a man who could write with the promise of the gods. I don't know. I'm sure most people feel strongly as well about English literature and trying to analyze text simply because I don't get it. Like, that's something you enjoy. Fair play to you, because analyzing content you already like will then strengthen your affinity for it. But if you're not interested in it, if you just want to read it and enjoy it, then it completely ruins the experience, in my opinion. But that's the one opinion of one person. Woo! Managed to smash getting through the time today. So I will save the other 2 bullet points I've got for next week. Sorry, this probably sounds a bit garbage again. I decided to record in my car because trying to record in a house of 4 people is not the easiest thing to do, and I have slight performance anxiety of screaming in my room whilst other people can potentially hear. So I hope you've all enjoyed listening to me rambling. My voice is a little raspy, it's weird. Hope that's not signs of bad things. Anyway, stay safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.